with corporate management and just it's, we on?
You know.
Yes.
It's really good letting you know when you're not in charge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm gonna call the meeting for July 24th, 2025 for the Charter Commission for the town of Harwich. President John Shorey, Lou Urbano, Linda Segula, Sandy Hall, Tony
London.
London, thank you, and Herb Bell. So those are the people who are present, and we actually have a member in the audience.
Proud.
We're pretty excited about that. All right, we've called to
A lot of
order.
responsibility.
You saw the minutes for July 17th that were sent out.
I move to approve the minutes, July 17th as submitted.
Second.
And we've been joined by Judith Underwood.
At least you remembered your name.
Oh, I drew a blank here, I'm sorry, Tony. So we have a motion on the floor to accept the minutes from Sandy, seconded by Lou.
Herb seconded.
Herb seconded?
Herb seconded.
Herb seconded it, okay, thanks. Any corrections, adjustments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, unanimous. Okay, I haven't seen any responses for the consultant or town agencies. Tony, has anything shown up in our email? Not yet?
No.
Okay, all right, just checking. All right, we can move into discussion on the current Harwich charter. We had said today we're gonna do finance committee and look at budget timelines.
Yeah,
Which one do you wanna do first?
I forgot my homework.
Can I just make a quick remark before you do
Certainly.
that? We're all set with payroll for Judith. I
Excellent,
worked with town hall and have submitted 2 invoices so far for her. We're all set, we got the mechanisms in place to get it done, so.
good, and I know that they will be sending us the monthly activity, the P and L for this commission,
Oh,
so we can
okay.
see what's being posted to our account and make sure it really is ours.
Yeah, okay. That will go to clerk or?
I'm hoping it's gonna come to our
To
email.
the email, okay.
Good. We can do the reconciliation.
And you can just make sure that, yep. So Tony, when it
So
shows
do you
up-
want me to forward it to you or
Forward
I
it.
just?
guess so, yeah, because I have a record obviously of what I paid. It'd be nice to know what was actually paid,
Okay,
or what I authorized to be paid.
right.
Good, thank you for taking care of that.
Little bumps, but
And I know that, and we had already arranged with the town accountant's office to just send us the monthly report, so we're on a list to come with the monthly report. So yes, so we can keep track of our funds and make sure stuff is getting properly charged.
I'm not sure what's gonna happen there, but Megan Green has left now officially.
Yes.
So we're short, I don't know how that's being handled. Someone will figure it out.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
current charter, would you like to do finance committee or budget timelines?
Well, inasmuch as they are sort of intricately related.
Yep.
I finally today sat down and took my assigned town of Eastham and compared it to our timelines in the town of Harwich.
Yep.
And I did a grid, which I
Oh, we love grids.
hopefully will be helpful. I can't guarantee it's 100% accurate. I was doing this in between customers because
Thank you.
my staff's husband had a heart attack last
Oh,
night.
gosh. Great.
Yeah.
How's he doing?
Joni?
Cindy's son.
Cindy, excuse me.
Yeah.
I call her Joni all the time. Cindy, yeah. Oh,
Happy days, huh? So this is what I did, and just by way of explanation, I took the major portions for the town of Harwich of what's in our charter. It's the
Mhm.
first column all the way through the pages, there's 4 pages. And I'm assuming that we're gonna have I guess now they can have the town meeting anywhere between, the first week in May, but I'm assuming the 4th of May, first Monday, for the dates.
Yes.
So what follows in that column are what my quick calculations say would be the dates. And then I compared them to the similar specifications of the Eastham charter. And for the most part, they sort of follow along with the same. There are some differences, and the major differences, and I think one of the things that we've seen over the past number of years is that all of a sudden the selectmen are like up against it. and everything is just last minute and not enough information, and not complete information, and the finance committee isn't getting what they want. So going through, if you go down to the first orange,
Do you have another one, Sandy?
oh yeah, going down to the first orange box. Second Tuesday of the month, the town administrator shall select the board a comprehensive budget for all town functions for the ensuing fiscal year, and shall submit to the selectmen a budget message, which we have due on or before February 10th. Eastham says, at least 120 days prior to the scheduled date of the annual town meeting, the town manager shall submit to the select board and finance committee simultaneously a comprehensive draft budget for all town functions for the ensuing fiscal year and accompanying draft budget message. Their deadline is a month before ours.
Yep.
So that pushes the whole thing back so that you've got more forward time. And then you go on to Eastham, which says, on or before the fourth Tuesday of February each year, the select board shall submit to the finance committee a budget which has been approved with or without amendments to the town manager's or administrator's proposed budget. We are due before February 24th. Theirs is within 30 days following submission of the draft, which puts them up to February 2nd. So they're a whole month ahead of the game on these critical timelines. And I wanted to go back, I just didn't have time, I wanted to go back to our original charter, because I believe that our deadlines in that were more closely similar to the Eastham model. Somewhere along the line, they got rejiggered to push them out, and I think that, there's a whole bunch of other things, and, it's really, I would ask you all to read it all, because it's interesting, there's some subtle little differences, but I think the one thing that we can do is talk about readjusting those timelines, and I think the finance committee would probably appreciate that a whole lot.
Yes.
I think part of the reason for the adjustment because the budget used to be presented in mid-January and it got moved to that early February time zone, was at a request, if I remember correctly, the Monomoy School District said they needed more time, they needed that extra couple of weeks in order to get a budget to it, so that's why it moved to that February 2nd. And also, if I recall correctly, there was doing something as in the middle of January, we were finding in the town that we weren't getting the pension numbers and the health numbers from the county, because we're Barnstable County, all of that. And so there was this three big pieces of a budget. So I think that's part of why it moved.
But
I
it
would
could still
think
happen.
Monomoy still, I would think the school still will have that.
The school is gonna
Issue.
take, yes, because there's, yes,
No, I was just gonna say, I have a little different memory than you on that switch that happened in 2013. And I remember the pieces as being, number one was the state receipts, which now,
there were other things that
Right.
led into it, so
yeah,
yes.
let me,
But those were the big pieces.
all right.
Well, I think the
Oh,
problem,
I wasn't really finished my sentence when
Okay.
it came in. At any rate, the school, we have a general number. I mean, I think we made a bad decision in 2013 to
Yeah.
move that. The state receipts are insignificant now, they're 20 grand if anything. The health numbers, every other town faces the same difficulties we do with the health numbers and the other things. I was wondering who had Eastham, because I have worked for Eastham and I have some familiarity with them. And there's 5 or 6 towns I could name for you that do their presentations, their town administrator presentations before the middle of January, as we used to do.
And we're aware of that, which is why each person was looking at the timelines of their community.
I failed.
They're assigned communities, so.
the problem isn't so much, I mean, a lot of that information can come in later. The big problem and the big disconnect is getting information to the finance committee.
Yes.
Because they're not getting anything on time, and they're not getting the information that they're used to getting, because it's all so rushed at the end. So I would really advocate for pushing those timelines back. It's also, Eastham also interesting because it also has a school district.
Yeah.
And one of
Yeah,
the
that's-
provisions on page 3 is a separate item on the school budget. And it's the receipt of the budgets for the Eastham Elementary School Committee, Nauset Regional District, and Cape Cod. Each budget shall be submitted simultaneously to the Select Board and Finance Committee. Select Board shall, within 30 days of each submission, submit its recommendations of the school committee budgets to the Finance Committee. So what they're doing is that they're really feeding the information to both the Finance Committee and the Selectmen at the same time.
And that's what, because Harwich is my town that I've looked at, and those are really, I think those are the two of the sticking points that I have. I think it's silly to have the budget presented on the 10th, and then the Finance Committee have to wait another 2 weeks in
Yeah.
order to get information. It really isn't appropriate. The same thing with the articles, because if the articles, at this year's town meeting, the final form of articles were, I think it was 214, final form. Finance Committee got them 2 weeks later. So there's absolutely no reason why this stuff cannot be done, and they simultaneously get it. I think something else we need to think about is how to phrase in the charter what is given to the Finance Committee. I mean, for the past few years, they've gotten, this teeny little 12 pages, which basically says police salary, police expenses, fire salaries, fire expenses for all the departments. How are you supposed to actually look at that and make a determination? They have not been allowed to have the detailed budget. So they don't get the detailed budget information.
Can I ask a question? And since our chair for the water wastewater,
Come over here in the middle so we can all see you and talk.
She's
Oh,
sitting
no,
over there
Bert.
because she doesn't want to be on camera.
Come up by John, how's that?
there you go.
Fine.
Okay,
Take
we're
a comfy
joined by a
chair.
member of the public.
Between us, if you like.
We're joined by a member of the public, Noreen Donahue, but she is not a member of the committee. Just to make that clear to whoever's watching, so you don't get a vote on anything.
Good.
These are community watchdogs.
So,
It was my understanding, and I would ask Noreen, the public president, who is also the chair of the Water Wastewater Commission. My understanding was the water department does give that full budget.
they have to stick it into Munis, because the Munis detailed budget has, Joe is getting paid, Joe is the firefighter and getting paid this much, and Ethel is a firefighter. There is full detail in there. The budget is detailed. Every department has to put that in. That is what the Finance Committee has not been allowed to see over the past few years. So all they see is water department,
Is
this
there,
much money in salaries. They don't see anything else. They're not allowed to see stuff.
is there a transparency reason for that,
No.
like a privacy reason?
No, they
or-
used to get
No.
all of that
No.
information.
Because in the annual report every year, people's salaries are in there, how much they earned.
They're all listed
They're all listed
by name.
by name, how much money they made in overtime, regular overtime total.
Yeah,
It's always
So
been in
it's,
there.
it's not a secret.
okay. So let's,
So there's
Get
a,
it?
but I think we need to think about not only the
How to-
timeline, but phrasing
For the level of
the
detail.
level of detail, because right now it just says present a budget. Well, so I give you, 25 lines with numbers on them and they add up, so what?
You could just simply say, proposed to the finance committee shall be identical to what the select board.
Select board
receives.
isn't getting it either. So you wanna be careful on that one.
oh, well,
Who
there is that
provides
list of the
Well, it's the
Huh?
town,
duties of the
I think
To
that's,
provide a budget, but it doesn't say
town
in what
administration.
detail.
okay, fully detailed budget. But that's a function not so much because you used to get all that information.
Yeah.
So that's only been a phenomenon in the last, 4 years.
It's interpretation.
So that's really how the administrators have interpreted. Select board has allowed it to be interpreted, yes, in that way.
So I'm just saying that It's another example in the charter where it says, provide a budget. And that leaves it open as to what is provided. And that is not good. Luke.
And when?
Yeah,
And when?
in looking at this, first question I had was, we have a town meeting May 4th, in or about.
Yep, beginning of May.
And then we start our budget process in October.
Mm-hmm.
So what could possibly, my thoughts were, what could possibly be done during those summer months to put some kind of framework that helped the whole process? And so that was one of the things that was going through. The other is, as I read the three, was responsibility. Who's responsible? Why is it that, and that it was decided here years ago, both of you have history, that the select board is the one that really is responsible for the budget? Why isn't the finance committee responsible for the budget? Just thoughts going through. The other was, how do we make whatever, we know how to put a budget together. The town does that very well. Software works. Money, we know what comes in, we know what goes out. But what we don't have is any way of, I couldn't find, any accountability or measurement of how people do from this perspective. We know that the administrator sometimes doesn't give the finance committee in our present system information. Well, who knows that except the people involved? And what could be done so that's broadcast? Maybe in the budget itself, there's a scorecard that says where's information provided on a timely basis. And so if you have a scorecard of actions, that's the only way that you can.
But it's not in the charter. So therefore, if it's not in the charter, then it doesn't have to be done. It
Right.
becomes interpretive.
Right.
So that's why I'm making the statement, the charter needs to be stronger in what is provided and when.
Same page, no difference,
So-
we're on the same page. The other question I had was this, and this was the key one, probably more important than the others. What is it that the citizens in our town want to see in the budget? When someone throws $100 million budget, and I have 2 weeks to look at it,
Oh, yeah, that's too much.
It's a,
yeah. And what impacts me is, as a person and people I talk to, is how does it affect me? Are my taxes going up? Are the sewers coming? What am I gonna do in 5 years with the budget? We need to really, we say nobody's interested in the budget. Well, we make it so that nobody can be interested in it.
but again, separate, Lou, what is in the charter?
Right.
Thou shalt do a budget.
Right.
It's process that says engage the community. That's separate, because there is budget information. Now, if the finance committee has detailed information, they can discuss it, their meetings are public, people can watch meetings. So there is a personal responsibility here to look at stuff. And so, there's, but I hear you, because at some point, we'll talk about what should be in the warrant book. So should there be more in the warrant book? Don't know, I don't wanna go in that
Right.
direction at this point. But that's the educational part.
Right.
But the charter says, do a warrant, do a budget.
Can I?
But the charter can also say that during those summer months,
But during the summer months, the one thing that the finance department is doing is they're closing the books and getting ready for an audit. They're busy at that point, so they really need to close the books, get everything done, and be ready for the auditors to come in. So they're not gonna be looking at a framework for something. They're busy at that major task. So that's why September 1st, they're somewhere in August is where they start thinking about stuff like this.
and that's why the complexity of the thought, which is also the responsibility in who's doing it.
Yeah,
And so if you free up one group, that group can be doing other things rather than closing the books.
well,
What group?
What
What?
group?
let's say
The
the,
accountants close the books, the
let's say the
finance
BOS,
committee isn't going
okay?
to be,
The
the
B-
BOS isn't gonna be closing
No.
the books either.
well, what is the BOS doing during the summer period in relation to the budget?
Well, I think right now they're generally looking at improving their process. That's going on. Judith had a.
Yes.
Maybe more of a clarification. So I'm looking at 4-3-2D
Is that Harwich?
in the Harwich one, and that's about the town administrator. It's chapter 4, so the town administrator's duties.
4-3. 4-3 where were you?
-2, letter D.
Got it. Responsible for seeing that the budget is administered and expended as adopted by town meeting. So the
In-
town administrator is making sure that the budget is followed and all the little accounting is done.
And by this, it means administered and expended as adopted by town meeting. Are they, what does that translate to?
Translates to, town meeting just passed a $75 million budget in a whole bunch of line items, salaries and expenses. And it is up to now the town administrator to ensure that the finance department is properly saying this expense was properly documented,
Okay,
there was an invoice, and it came over here and it went in the right supplies account.
okay.
And it didn't end up in the water department, and it should have ended up in the fire
Heavens.
department.
Gotcha.
Which
Okay.
doesn't start until July 1,
July 1 is when
is
our
the
stuff.
new budget,
Yes,
is the new
Is the new
fiscal year.
fiscal year. Okay,
so the first couple of weeks of July, you have some, there's some stuff that
Yeah.
you can do of moving some money around in the budget, that you're authorized to do that. So they're really focused on that for the first 2 weeks of July, get the books closed as much as possible, and then go through and get ready for an audit.
I was just wanted to make sure that there wasn't something that town meeting had passed at some point that had something to do with the time frame, but that's straightforward.
Yeah, no, it's the passing of the budget, so it's the administration of the budget and the accounting function.
Making sure the town departments are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
Couple of things.
Go ahead.
Eastham, one of the discussions we were having was detail. This last box on page 2 here. The select board and finance committee simultaneously a comprehensive draft budget for all town functions. So to me, the word comprehensive means we want everything.
But it doesn't say detail. Comprehensive
Yeah.
budget is $75 million or whatever we are at this point, which means all the line items are in there, adding up to 75 million. That didn't say the detail behind salaries and wages.
Yeah, gotcha. The other thing I just wanted to mention, our finance committee is told that it will consider, in our charter, articles involving the expenditure of funds. Eastham says finance committee shall vote on all articles, and its recommendations will be printed in the warrant, as well as a finance committee report. That could be really interesting.
Yes, that's over here under warrant. Something to be included in the warrant would be the finance committee report. I'd actually like to see the select board, because the select board presents the budget. So, or they have a budget message and I think the select board report on what's going on should be in the warrant.
Which they
So
probably don't
people
write
can-
until the day before the town
Probably.
meeting.
But everybody's gonna have to get a little more organized, but that kind of stuff. So you're absolutely right. And we do have in our, the question is, our charter requires the finance committee to vote on all articles. And the question has come up before, should they be voting on non-money items like,
Zoning.
Our
zoning?
Yep.
Our charter actually says our finance committee is to consider articles having expenditures. It does not say it is on all articles.
But-
Eastham's the one that says all articles.
And we have traditionally had the finance committee do all
Right.
articles. So that's another thing to consider at some point. Do we want that to just be money articles? I don't know, because then you can start getting into
Hmm.
gnat's eyelash, because this is really, well, there's gonna be a penny spent on it, money. I don't know how to, you'd
Yeah,
have
where
to
you
think
draw
about
that
how to
line.
phrase it. Oh, the devil is in the writing, the
Well,
words.
I know in 2016, when we tried to do the compliance, Dana made the argument, there was no ask for money in that article at all.
He's right.
But Dana made the argument that this could someday involve the expenditure of funds, which I guess might be a point, but the article itself did not ask for the expenditure
And we
of
could all be
funds.
hit by lightning tomorrow.
Exactly.
There's ifs. Herb,
Maureen had,
well, I'm trying to have the committee discuss.
I did not do my calls.
That's okay.
Am I understanding that certain things were written down, 2013, as far as procedures, and then just without a rewrite, that's what got interpreted or reinterpreted
I'm
as
not
procedure?
sure what your question is exactly.
Well, as far as,
I think I get the question.
yeah, submitting the budget, you said,
The timeline changed.
yeah,
Well, the timeline changed, but so did, because the charter has all along said, town administrator presents a budget to the select board. That's what the charter says. It doesn't say in what detail, what reports
When.
come with it. It says presents a budget. That's where you get into the interpretive stuff. It doesn't, can we shut phones off? Or at least quiet it down?
Quiet
Be
it.
I
quiet.
don't think so.
It's as quiet as it gets. Not sure I even know
So-
how to shut my phone
You
So
off.
can
that's-
just shut the thing on the side.
Yeah.
You can just turn that, you don't have to shut it totally down. There's a button on the side.
No, this one,
No, the other side.
this side?
Yeah,
Should
she doesn't
be
have
up
one
there
on
at
the
the
side.
top.
I don't think it's an
Samsung.
Apple thing.
It's not an Apple, no, I
Oh.
just have to, needs two
So-
buttons to turn it off, I almost never do.
In the similar thing, I think we've talked about, the charter says new hires will be voted on at town meeting. It does not say how the information is presented. It does not say separate article. For 20 years' worth, they were in separate articles. And then somebody said, well, the charter doesn't say that, so now we're just gonna stuff it into the budget and not have it be separate articles. So it does become, if it's not clear, you end up with that level of interpretation. And
that changes with every,
that could change with
Board,
everybody who,
basically.
they start reading the charter, they start making different interpretations, you get the lawyers involved, and now we're having everybody make opinions.
The timelines, however, were changed by a vote of town meeting.
Yes, they
were
were.
actual charter changes.
That was
Okay,
an actual
okay.
charter
That was your
change.
main
that's,
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Those
And
were,
yeah.
those were done by town meeting.
Yeah, that was a
Okay.
town meeting change for the charter. I'm just saying that the presentation of stuff, if it isn't clear how much detail is there,
So maybe it makes sense to, on our draft ideas, to put together a calendar for the year, maybe, or something like that, that would get incorporated into the charter and the townspeople might vote on it.
yeah,
Like
because
a general calendar.
the timeline itself is in the charter. You know,
It
having it
is.
on the first Friday here, 14 days later, it goes to the finance committee. It is all set in the charter,
It is.
the
Okay.
timeline is.
Carol Thayer once did a bylaw charter review committee. She did a calendar for whatever the last year she was on, that took all the way through all the town meeting dates and for the whole year. And I'm not sure what happened to that. I may have it.
But in terms of it, if you look at the Harwich timeline, October 1st, and it's the reference is Charter 9-2-1, on or before October 1st, excuse me, town administrator provides current financial assessment to the select board. 9-2-2, on or before the first Tuesday of October, same time frame. Select board is supposed to issue a general budget memo and policy statement. These are the things we're gonna focus on for next year's budget. It's one of those on top, no new hires, keep it to 2% or whatever. So they're supposed to be issuing a general policy statement, which is
That
not,
comes, the general policy statement comes a week later.
but that's the select board, so it's in the early October. On or before the first Friday in December, which this year was December 6th, the departments all submit their budgets, and they stick them all into Munis, because that's where all of these reports come from. So each department sits there on a computer, types it all into Munis, so it's all collected, it's all in the same format. And then there's supposed to be a joint meeting of the Select Board and Capital Outlay Committee on the 5-year capital plan, all happening by December. Then we have, the sticking point, I think, is how much time does there need to be scrubbing the budget on a first pass? Should it go back to something like that mid-January timeframe? I'm not gonna say the third Friday of January, but should it go back? Because right now, this year it was February 10th, 2025, was that second Tuesday.
How disruptive would it be from a financial person's perspective, right? You guys that have worked in the budgets, to move this timeline back 2 weeks in the fall so that September 15th is the kickoff? Because then to me, this is hitting all of those crazy holidays that happen in
Yeah.
November. I'm sure downstairs, they're all going crazy, and
Accountants, as a rule,
don't go crazy.
get work done regardless. Accountants are accustomed to timeframes, they're accustomed to deadlines. Deadlines have to be met whether there's a holiday or not. So, yes, they're doing a lot of work, but trying to start the budget, keep in mind, our fiscal year just started on July 1st.
Yeah.
If you start saying, we're gonna start issuing memos in the beginning of September, that's 2 months into the year.
To start the process, though.
But it's 2 months into the year. It's awfully early.
2.5.
School
That's-
just started.
School just started,
They haven't even gotten all their supplies yet. They don't even know what they've spent yet.
so it's.
September 1st.
So
They
it's-
don't have any idea.
I mean, personally, I don't see a problem with, on October 1st, that's, 3 months into the year. So the town administrator providing a current financial assessment before October 1st, that's July, August, September, that's 3 months. So
Okay.
they're working on it in August.
I'm
in
asking
September.
it as somebody who's
Yep.
not a budget
The
person.
deadlines that are problematic are when you get down to 9/24, and you're all the way, out on or before February 10th.
But I guess my question is, if you move those first timeline back 2 weeks, does that allow for an easier move back of the February
Yes.
deadline into January?
Well, I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
And I'm thinking the schools, they start earlier now than they did 20 years ago.
No,
They're
No.
usually a week earlier, no?
the school, in my 30
Yeah,
years, never
no.
started, 30 plus, started before Labor Day. It's always after Labor Day.
I
The
thought they
teachers
had-
start,
Teachers
but the
start.
kids don't.
Not the
Some
kids,
communities,
but the
the kids do.
teachers.
Barnstable. So they work 2 days. They work Wednesday, Thursday, and then they're off for Labor Day.
Well, I think
But that
this-
sets it up for the administration, compared to 20 years ago?
I'm just
you know?
saying,
yeah.
All your supplies aren't, and only because I know the school department.
I know.
9 times out of 10, you don't have
It's too
everything by
early.
September
September
1st.
Plus, they may have budgeted for 200 kids in grade 6,
And they
and they've
get,
got
300.
220.
Right.
right,
You know, there's,
Okay.
those move-ins.
Just
that-
asking
no, I
questions,
think those
because,
are good questions. On a budget time frame, the departments can get, if they can get their work done and they get their information, because that's another issue, but that's different. If they can get their budget submitted in the beginning of December, which is what ours calls for,
yeah,
then that gives you December, first 2 weeks of January, and anybody who does budgets, they know they're sitting there with, because our budget that comes out in February, it already has, we think that, you know, health insurance, what do we think it's gonna go up? I don't know, put 10% in there.
right,
You're making
With a buffer,
estimates all over.
sure.
You guys are doing that
sure,
in the water department, making assumptions and assessments, and the closer you get more time, you start refining.
mhm,
But I think that, to me, just moving submission of the budget, moving it back to the middle of January, just gives an extra 3 weeks to review process. And changing it so it's not just submission to the select board, it's select board and finance committee. Why should the finance committee have to wait? They've got a lot of work to do.
And Eastham moves theirs all the way back. They have the same time, December timeline,
Mm-hmm.
but they moved theirs all the way back to the beginning of January.
Yeah.
And it apparently works because it's been that way for a long time. One thing I like about Eastham is you don't hear much in the way of controversy out of Eastham. Or we're just not hearing it.
Well, there was a lot of discussion when they brought in water, and when they had challenges with the cap on their landfill. So people are, I mean, there's a lot of discussion, and all of a sudden they moved from a town that didn't have a very large budget to a town that all of a sudden had significant infrastructure. So, yeah.
It's,
and that's only been like 4 years, 5 years?
Yeah.
When did
Something
their
like that.
water system go in, the big one?
I retired in 18 and they were a couple of years into it by then. So yeah, in about 2016, I think.
Oh, I guess that's 10 years, right? 9 years, 8 years, yeah.
time flies.
Time flies.
Lou,
And I still think we need to somehow find a week or two to move that end date so that we have more than 2 weeks to look at the budget. Whether we find a day here or a day there, that drives it for me, to give more time at the end, which will drive the whole process backwards.
the more time you have to review, the better product you end up with.
Right.
So,
You're talking about
But
the
yeah,
town
who's
or
the
for
we?
people to
Right.
know?
The Finance
Who's the we
committee?
that you're talking
Our
about?
budget is ready,
So the
we're going to
townspeople-
release it
Oh, to the
so
town.
moving it,
town.
so
So
moving
all
it
of
back
us.
to mid-January.
So
Everybody.
us.
I'm picking a date,
Everybody.
mid-January.
works.
So I think, I'm not sure if that, you know, should it be earlier in January? I'm just saying mid-January, and I'm just trying to say, okay,
January 10th.
do we want to move it back? Usually you say second Friday of,
Yeah.
third
Yeah.
Tuesday of, because January
Right,
10th could be a
of course.
Saturday.
Exactly.
So, just a question, I know we're discussing this. We have 2 former selectmen, we have a finance person.
Finance people,
No, I'm talking town finance, town committees.
yes.
Oh, you're on the finance committee as
was,
well?
yes.
You
As
were,
was
oh,
Sandy.
all right. Well, I forget, I haven't missed a town meeting
We've almost got
in
a quorum.
40 odd years, but what, so my question is,
Don't let
the
me
lay person, me, should I be making the decision on what, without asking, what these dates should be? Should I be having an opinion on that?
The answer is, I think, yes, and we have asked the town departments for their
Okay.
opinions.
Okay,
We've asked the select board for their opinions, and
so our
I-
opinions can change once we hear from them.
sure, I mean,
Okay.
if we're saying, you have to pick a line in the sand. You say mid-January, And then there's a whole bunch of reasons, and we come to the third week of January,
Okay.
or something.
I just needed to ask that
It's
question.
one of those throw the spaghetti against the wall, see if it sticks.
See if it's, okay.
Well, we will be asking these committees to come in and talk to us directly.
Yeah, the
too.
finance committee, definitely, we want them to come in.
And that's part of the reason I'm asking questions like this, because I don't necessarily know,
Right.
and
Just
I
in
get
the
stopped in the grocery
context
store.
of public information, there used to be almost set in stone a pre-town meeting. There was a week or 2 weeks before the regular town meeting. And whether it's in the charter or whether somehow we find a way to make it happen again, they used to be very well attended. And somehow they've just petered out over the years and we don't have those anymore, but
Well, we used to have the town, what was it called, town civic days. Because I know when I got here at first, be over at the community center, all the committees and departments would have a table, and you could sit there and people could ask questions and get educated.
Ah.
And it petered out because people stopped coming. I know
The
the
general
last one,
public or the
general
committee
public,
people?
The general
The
public. Because I remember the last one I went to, I was on the finance committee and I sat there with the budget and a bunch of other things and waited all day. Nobody came by. So some of this stuff, should we reinvent it?
well, this
I
would
think
this
that
would
would
be
be-
the voter information committee.
The voter information committee.
And
You know, some of this is not charter framework. Some of it is getting the information together and getting it out
well,
there.
we used to have a series called Know Your Town.
That's what I'm thinking of, is the Know Your Town thing.
Well, that was, at one point, that was memorialized in the series of tapes.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, whatever we probably did 15 or 20 years ago, and it's probably been longer than that, this probably needs serious updating. But each, town administrator, the finance committee, would have sessions, public sessions. Originally, they were just person-to-person sessions, but there's a lot of ways to get information out if people have the will to do it.
And also if the community
thing, Will.
wants to listen
Will.
and partake of the information.
I'm gonna put that on my list for discussion with the school folks,
Sure.
just as a,
But I think that
right,
means,
students, this
but all these meetings are all being
former social
taped,
studies teacher. This
people
would be
to
so
watch
cool.
them.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot more education going on there than is apparent. Just because you don't have 40 people at every select board meeting, doesn't mean people aren't paying attention.
And
So what we should also maybe write down, whenever the administrator sends information to the select board, whether it be preliminary or final, that the same copy is sent at the
Yep.
same time to the finance committee.
So I think we're talking, move the budget from this early February to mid-January. Info to both
In detail.
select board and the finance committee, same timing, because I agree. Having to sit there and wait for 2 weeks.
Same info.
And, yeah, info,
same detail.
Detail.
Yeah.
and then the issue of the detail itself.
I agree with what you said 100% here, but in Sandy, thanks for this,
Yep.
Yeah.
this is a great template too, for me to look at
Do the
chat.
same thing.
Yeah,
I can email this to everybody as an Excel,
okay.
so you can play with it. You don't do Excel? It's not
I had
hard.
an administrator who did it,
Well,
when I'm retired 12 years.
It's only, it's only a table, you can tap on
I want one
any
of
cell
those.
and change it any way you want
It's
to.
dictation.
Great, but the point is, I think we,
Does he know how to
speaking
turn
as
the
a finance
computer
committee,
on?
we're
No,
chair of
right.
finance,
Hey, guys.
moving this timeline up is tremendous. I didn't get the information till the end of February
It's
sometimes,
ridiculous.
and you got 2.5 months to figure out what the hell you're gonna do.
And
moving
actually, you
it up
don't
to the
have to,
second.
you don't have to, because the finance committee gets at the end of February.
Right, but by
And,
March,
and
yeah,
they've
March,
got, by
yeah.
end of March,
Yeah.
they've gotta be
That's
done
right,
with
yeah,
their
yeah.
voting and their review.
Right, that's
They're-
right.
This
So
is
2 months.
crazy.
It's too much.
And by January second, if they can send it to the select board, why can't they send it to the finance committee
Well, this-
on the second?
This Eastham charter
Absolutely.
also doesn't suggest, but specifies, there shall be one joint meeting between finance committee and select board. And as many independent meetings as you want, but there is actually, it's commanded that there has to be that joint meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but as soon as the selectman gets one word, the finance committee should
Should
get
get
that
the
same
same
word.
thing. I mean,
Whether or
so-
not it's a good word or a bad word, it's the same word, then we're working in tandem with the selectmen on this. Wait and set, according to this, it's 7 weeks later, the finance committee gets any.
It's silly.
It's silly, isn't it?
Well, I think that, you know, part of also is according to our bylaws, that, you know, the article, I think it's the bylaws, they're trying to figure which one, that they're supposed to have, all articles are supposed to be in final format, that is a bylaw, that's right. Bylaw, Article 1, Chapter 271, 1A, final form of articles due. Final form, not the title. Lanterns on the road. It's the full written bylaw. I mean, we have gotten really sloppy about that in this town. The number of years ago that I sat on the board, final form meant final form. It didn't mean let's start thinking about it and show up with it at the end of March, and there's no time for discussion. So,
Might be something we would want to include in the charter.
yes, so do, you know, something about, you know, does the warrant, you know, include in the charter, the final form in the charter of articles? People got, I mean, all of the, if you put in a private petition, a citizen's petition, it has to be in final form with its signature by a certain
And
date,
you don't
Right.
get to change it.
and you don't get to change it. Well, you could, but you have to go back and get all the people who signed for
Or
it.
you have
and
to
blah, blah,
amend
blah.
it on town meeting
Or do
floor,
it
which is another available
Yeah.
mechanism that anybody can use at any time. So it's not like it's cast in brass.
But it is supposed to be what your intent, what your
Yeah.
intention is. So, some of that is, you know, should the final form, right now it's in the bylaws, should it be in the charter?
Probably should.
So at the same time that the budget is done, you have to be presenting the warrant. And the warrant articles, back in my day, and I'm sure in Sandy's day too,
Way back in
Was-
Sandy's day.
there's a whole ton of those articles that are supposed to be getting written in January, so that they're been to the lawyers, and people have an opportunity to read them. You know, you can't, so it becomes problematic. So, final form of the charter for the articles, you know, and move it from a bylaw.
So Linda,
Yes, sir.
the administrator works very well with the finance committee in most cases. There's communication that goes on, in most cases.
See his face.
That wasn't my experience.
Well, but I understand, that's why I'm going there. Does the finance committee have the ability to call department heads in at any time that they wish?
Yes,
They should,
but
but it's not in the charter.
Not
It's in,
in the
it's in
charter.
the Eastham charter.
It's in the Eastham charter, but it
Yeah.
is not in
I was
our
But
actually-
it
charter.
could be in ours,
I was told I could not do
but it could be in ours.
that. Oh,
Because-
no,
because
I
if the
did for 3
administrator-
years, and then all of a sudden, I couldn't
If the
anymore.
administrator isn't providing the information, then you could directly go to the department head. If the department head doesn't come, then the select board would get involved.
And
Lisa?
again, it's not in the charter, so is that a suggestion
Yeah, it's a suggestion
add
to add, yes.
that the FinCom, because actually the select board has the same problem,
I understand.
that they don't get to call department heads to their meetings.
And yet they used to.
And we used to.
That's a function of the last regime. So
But again,
hopefully
the
that
charter,
doesn't say so.
do we want to have the charter say department heads, will appear at meetings to which they are requested to attend? It doesn't say in our charter that the town administrator or the chair of the finance director should be attending finance committee meetings.
Here's the language that Eastham has that covers this whole subject. It says, meeting jointly, the select board and the finance committee shall conduct at least one public hearing on the proposed town budget. The select board or finance committee may hold additional hearings if deemed necessary. Select board and finance committee may jointly or separately require the town manager, any town department, office, board, commission, or committee to appear or furnish appropriate financial reports and budgetary information. Perfect.
Because we have had issues where committees are working without having access to the department head.
Yeah,
Because the department head
aren't even allowed to talk.
aren't even allowed to talk to them. So,
Mm.
do we want something in the
So-
charter that says, they can,
Access.
the finance committee has access to department heads,
Should that be in a
It's-
formal meeting or informal? It doesn't matter.
Well, we don't
Yeah.
do
We're talking
informal.
formal.
Well, I mean, in the sense of going to the office itself or
No, you
open.
call them in before your committee.
Okay,
So
Thank
we're
you.
talking the
That's-
formality of it.
okay.
Having them come in, answer questions about, because we used to do that in the finance committee. The fire chief would come in, the police chief, DPW, the big departments would come in. If there was something that needed to be discussed, you could ask them questions about their articles, what's happening in your overtime. There was some pretty meaty conversations, which right now don't happen.
On that point there, though, you're right, I used to have department heads come in and speak.
Me too.
But I also used to go to the department heads, to Judith's point, informally, and speak with the department heads.
Which you should be able to.
Yeah. But the question here is, contractually, union-wise and stuff like that, how is that written into the thing too?
Most department heads are not union, they're personnel bylaw,
And,
so they're not in unions.
but by calling them into a public meeting, and they're not compensated for that, should they come in is the question. If they say,
Part
"Hey,
of
I'm
their
not able
job,
to do
they're
that."
supporting their budget.
Yeah. Are they hourly or salary?
They're
They're
salary.
salary.
They're
They're
exempt,
so-
exempt.
Yeah.
They're exempt from overtime. I think you wanna be reasonable.
Right.
You
Yeah,
don't want
right.
you wanted to wanna meet every night, all
No.
five weeks of the night, and have the poor department head in there every night for 5 days. I
Right.
think you have to be reasonable, but I think there is an expectation that, yes, they will come in and defend their budget.
I'm just asking the question, 'cause it was mentioned when last year, when we used to have all the department heads come in, there was a question on overtime and things like that.
And now they do this, to me, silly Saturday thing, where you get the police department, the DPW, the fire department, and they get 15 minutes. And that includes the presentation of their budget, talking about their articles, and fielding questions. Really, 15 minutes? That's a $10 million budget.
I just want to make it clear that there's no contract that prohibits them, or they can say, no, not coming in. I never had an
So
issue.
that was an administrative issue.
Yeah.
That's an administrative issue. Again, it becomes the charter doesn't say that they have to go into these meetings.
So what you wrote down, was that only finance? Should it be select board and or finance committees?
I
That
think
the
there's-
department heads,
I think there should be, to me, I think there should be an overall statement in the charter that says, department heads, are able to be requested to be at meetings to answer questions of their relevant committees, the Board of Health director should
with
be
the
at the Board
select
of
board
Health.
and or the finance committee?
Because those are the two that you're really looking at.
Yeah,
Well, I think, that last statement you just read there on page 4 covers all that information.
Yeah, the Eastham language.
So Linda, one more thing on that. By saying that, does that mean that the finance committee can call the accountant, the finance person, at any time they wish? Or should we put in the charter something that says that the finance director works with the finance committee in creating the budget? Why do we have the administrator instead of go direct?
Finance committee is advisory. They are not a town
We
department.
don't go.
And the finance director answers directly to the select board, not the town administrator.
I want to get into Munis. I want to see, how do I get that accomplished? I can ask.
It's a direct hire.
You mean you personally?
No, I mean,
Okay.
no, I'm not.
Well, but that's
I can
why I'm
just look at the
asking.
budget
I
at
don't,
the-
I
at the
don't
year-end
know who
budget
the
and
I
see.
You can
is
barely
that
count
you're
on the
saying.
fingers of one
Hey,
hand.
one,
Yeah.
two.
I'm just trying to understand what he's saying.
Yep, yep. No, I think that, I
I
don't,
used to look at Munis.
I don't know how to accomplish this. I used to look at Munis too.
Yeah.
We had access to finance committee and the select board. When I was on the select board, we had access to Munis, and therefore I could go in and I could go through to make sure that I understood that there were 22 of these last year, and this year there's 22 again. That you could go in and see that level of detail.
So,
I don't think if you wanna have
So-
general,
so we can put, where we have the ability to call department heads, we can also put that the BOS and the finance committee have access to all tools necessary in creating the budget.
and that's the detail itself. We said the detail itself, which to me is Munis. I know that
To you. I'm gonna interpret it differently.
okay, I'm gonna add detail itself, the Munis. There are most departments, Ginny Hewitt's, the library, her budget memos that she gives first to the library trustees and then is submitted to the town is pretty extensive. It answers any question you could possibly think of, because if it's not in that memo, nobody was gonna think of it, because she's so organized and so detailed. Those memos are there. We used to get that on the finance committee, because if you get the memo that somebody has written, why I did my budget this way, you can just read through it. You don't really have to be looking at, there's 22 people here and there. But those budget memos are a valuable source of information, because they start saying, and I'm now going to defend why I'm asking for another firefighter for the following reasons. This is why I need a new pickup truck for the following reasons. Those budget memos are great, so it's really, I'm saying the detail itself, which to me includes Munis, it includes the departmental memos,
Communications.
the communications, just the whole communication thing is the detail. You're sitting over there pretty quiet. You wanna put 2 cents in?
I understood the board was discussing,
Okay.
so, discuss,
No, I'm asking you, as you've been listening to some of this.
okay, yes,
you
I
have
have
a
many comments today.
Oh, you just opened
Okay.
the can of
Keep them
worms.
down.
Yeah, I haven't even started.
I know that, but
Okay, so first of all, I only had a couple of copies of this, but Sandy will find this very helpful. That was Sandy I was reaching towards, Linda.
I got it. This
but-
is a detailed timeline.
This is from their budget book, and it'll be interesting to see, it's East Ham's budget timeline. It's the most comprehensive list I've seen from any town. There's certainly many towns I haven't looked at. But what it becomes is a great checklist,
Yeah.
because this town has more stuff in it than we'd ever use, I have one more if somebody wants another, I'm sorry, but I can,
And we there is, in the select board packet, at the point of when they're starting in the fall, there is a fairly detailed timeline. This is gonna happen here, this is happening here, there's a full detailed timeline that is in the budget, in the select board packet. So something like this does exist for us.
I'll be happy to pass it around. I like it back because I think I could put it in an email so everybody can.
Yeah.
But,
So originally, I wanted to kind of round out Lou's question and Judith's. The memos that I think you're referring to are what has the last few years been called a narrative. So from administration, it goes out, and it is extremely complex. And just for Lou's understanding, those are turned in by each department by about the middle of August. And so as you folks look at the whole process, and this part of that I'm talking about is process now, it's not charter, however you work new things in or take old things out. But as it exists right now, those things are turned in from each department, and then they sit. And actually, nobody else ever even sees them. So you're talking about things starting in October. There's actually been this tremendous amount of work. Now, these departments have just finished their year end as well, and then they're getting this done by the middle of August. It also includes that they want write-ups, not in final form, but write-ups of all the article wants that they want for the year. So as far from the department's point of view, who are killing themselves.
Done the work by the end of summer.
Yeah, they're already doing this work. So it is already happening. So just because it says October 1st, financial assessment, the town administrator has gathered information from the department heads, because somebody is saying at that point, I'm gonna wanna be putting into the budget consideration for 2 new hires. That stuff all starts getting, it doesn't just magically appear in December. It's really happening fairly quickly and then moving into, and people start putting together stuff, so that's, there's a lot of detail that's going on.
Yeah,
She's not done.
the point I was trying to make,
I was hoping you'd get to it.
Oh, my.
something was in my way.
I've worked.
She got interrupted.
So, I mean, the department heads are hardworking people, happy to do this, but it bothers me that they're killing themselves in the summer and nobody even knows that that information sits there. So as you folks look at the whole picture, I hope that you'll keep them from that point of view in mind. Because here we have these tremendous problems. In the meantime, these other people have done their work 6 months before that, while we're talking about February and March dates, And so to expound further on that, also for the non-financial people, 80% of our budget's payroll, and that should really come straight from the treasurer, in my opinion, straight from the treasurer or whoever is the finance director at the time or who's ever overseeing that. There's so little wiggle room left in our budget that actually I don't even think 2 weeks is that long, other than the philosophical arguments about how we're gonna spend our money. There's very little wiggle room left. 10 years ago, there was a lot more wiggle room for us
It
to
is true.
pin down on expenses.
If you
This,
actually take a look at the overall budget, payroll, benefits, health insurance, retirement, the general insurance requirements, the commercial insurance and property insurance requirements, the debt funding, the principal and interest, you take all of that and you're probably getting close to what, maybe 80% of the
that's what
budget
they
is
say,
that.
80.
Now you've got 20% to spend on
Something
adding
else. machine
machine tapes and new computers and this, that, and the other thing. Yeah, the budget, and you can do that in any community.
She's not done yet.
I know, but I'm agreeing with her.
Well, that's true.
So,
All right.
yeah.
That's a good one. Okay, so as we have many people who were on the finance committee at different periods, I think you and I were the only ones that actually overlapped. But at any rate, as we know, the finance committee used to start meeting with departments in January or February. Now, look at it from this point of view. Those departments are done with their budgets in August. So they could, and everybody knows the finance committee is gonna have to meet with police, have to meet with fire, they're gonna have to meet with the big ones. So I do not understand, quite frankly, why the finance department waits. The department, other than also being courteous or something, the departments have their budgets, they can give it to the finance committee, they can start like they used to in January. We used to start in February and meet two times a week, so.
The reason we don't is don't have the budget.
But the departments
I
have the
know they have
budget.
the budget.
But they can
departments-
give it to you.
But
The
no, they don't,
departments
though.
put their
The
budgets,
administrators
the
hold
departments put their budgets in early December.
Yeah.
They're not putting them in August. That's the they put
Water
in-
does.
Well, they're not due, departments submit their budgets December sixth.
Okay.
Well,
I did
think
not
what
bring,
she's
excuse
saying
me.
is
They might
that
have work done before.
they have them done, but they haven't, they
Right.
don't need to
The
submit them.
budget was due last year on August 23rd. That's from the budget message from the administrator, I didn't bring a copy. Now, whatever little last minute, little finicky stuff is done, right before December, but August 23rd was when it was due. Last year, the year before was August 15th, so.
I'm gonna go back to something you said, if I may, through you.
Sure.
If 80% of the budget is the same as last year,
Right.
what the hell? Give me a break. We're talking about plus and minus, okay? The timeframes can move.
They sure can.
We need to get this information in the charter that says all information, including working papers.
Right, that's, what is well, part of that is, what is the detail we want to put in the charter
Right.
that goes with the budget? So, that's why we've got communications, munis, department memos, detail.
Can I ask a question then? Going back to my original question. So I understand the school department's calendar, as far as their accounting is concerned, is a little different than town hall.
Right.
So setting this aside, giving them an extension, right? Why can't that 2-week come back? Why can't they submit before Thanksgiving and roll the whole calendar back? Like, what's the holdup if everybody's done? Well, I didn't really.
Everybody's not done. Just because, I'm gonna speak now from an accountant standpoint.
Okay.
So, Lou's department, I only have $75 million to spend. Lou's department puts in early December or around Thanksgiving.
76.
He wants $10 million. We got the water department who's saying they want, well, the water department is separate because they, an enterprise fund. So now you've got the police department. Well, they got 20 million. All of a sudden, in December, when all these go into the munis system, and the town administrator prints the report out and says, wow, we got $95 million worth of asks and we only have 75 million to spend. It's not like there's a lot of work that happens in what did it just add up to, where are we, and what do we need to worry about? So there's a whole bunch of work that is done from the accounting perspective of adding all this up and saying, okay, the fire department, just their budget includes 6 new firefighters. We can't afford that, so you gotta take that out. We'll put that on the wish list. What do we call it, enhancement of services?
Enhancement of
Yeah.
service.
So.
But that's what
they-
you do post January 15th now.
No, they're doing that in December.
But
December and January.
I'm just trying to understand the deadline on paper and the actual movement of deadlines.
So,
I understand the school department, but if what Noreen is saying, that most of the departments are putting their preliminary, we'll use that word, budget in August?
And if I could just say, Eastham gets that work done that you referred to, that very real work, and presents their budget. Their kickoff date, ours was February 10th last year, theirs was January 3rd.
Yeah.
Many other towns do it prior to January 15th. It's the town administrator that really swings this, and if you say, why don't they do it? A lot of them are nervous. That means they're spending New Year's getting their budget ready, and that's what they do, but they do
Is
it.
it so when you say getting their budget ready, is it the actual numeric, is it the
Yes.
actual accounting, or is it more policy, like forward
No,
thinking,
policy-
scoping?
In general, well, that's opinion, but policy more comes afterwards. It's the
Afterwards,
nuts and bolts
okay.
of the balanced budget, and then saying to the town, would you rather buy a fire truck or would you rather buy a building?
So I guess, as I'm not understanding, other than the school department, the calendar of what does and does not happen? Because you're saying one thing and you're saying another thing.
No, we're not.
That's what I'm
We're
No,
saying
it's the
the
same
same
thing.
I think
thing.
we're
That's
saying
what
the
I'm
same
hearing.
thing, is that in the fall,
In the fall.
departments get their marching orders, put together a budget. I know that because I see the budget, I see the instructions that the library gets, and it says.
But
I
Noreen said
think,
it's
yeah,
August.
That's,
I
that
don't know,
August.
I don't, well, maybe
She
August.
said that it has to be
In the, how
submitted
about
in
we say,
August.
in the fall? Because.
We were without a superintendent last
You
year. I
understand
know
what
the
I
dates.
understand what you're
Well,
saying.
regardless
Trying
of
to
that,
understand.
our charter says the departments submit their, I don't care if it's done in August, I don't care if it was done in June. The charter says departments submit their budgets on or before the first Friday of December. That's the charter.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant if it was done in August, some departments need more time.
Well, that's
Well,
what I said,
that's-
some of this was process, some is charter. As I
Right,
said, this
so
is
but
not
this is
in the,
charter. And we're talking charter here.
That's part of the discussion that I've heard the select board have, because all of these dates in the charter say on or before.
Mhm.
The question becomes, if it's possible to do this earlier
Do it.
and more in line with what the departments are already doing, why didn't we not move those deadlines back?
Yeah.
So I think that's what Noreen's trying to say. It's not that we can't do it, it's not that we'd be putting undue pressure on the departments, we'd be backing into what they're already doing.
But I think that before
And
we
it-
make those decisions or the discussion, I think we need to talk to the finance department.
Oh,
100%.
absolutely,
100%,
absolutely.
but
It's just
the
the
point is, if the budgets
conceptual
are,
understanding
budgets
it.
are done, and the finance department has them, then there's no reason why we can't back it up, as long as there's some unknown mysterious thing that means that it has to sit on somebody's desk for 2 months without doing anything about it, without giving it to the finance committee, without giving it to the board of selectmen.
See, I'm gonna argue the opposite. I think there is a lot of work being done once all these budgets get in and everybody gets it by the first Friday in December. I don't care if it was done in August.
But
There is a full lot of time spent adding it up. I mean, we just went through the example. You add up all the budgets when they throw in their numbers, and you came up with $95 million.
But what you have by August 15th is the potential for a good, solid
I don't
preliminary
think the
budget.
I don't think the departments were getting their budgets in, because I know that from the library, they didn't even get budget instructions to the library. And
Most,
we put in, the budget was put in full in early December.
most departments don't need instructions, they already know how to
They
put
may.
together their budget.
But there are percentages in there that they're supposed to be using.
If I had the letter, I mean, I would show it to you. It's from the
Right.
administrator. It said August 23rd last year. Turn
Okay.
everything in.
But this is the date in the
Yeah.
charter. Yes.
I don't know if this is a charter issue, but in your discussion of the department heads delivering their budgets to the administrator, I believe I read in here that the administrator sends something out in terms of, rephrase it. In putting together a budget, the administrator could send out the guidelines to each department in terms of what his expectations are.
Mm-hmm.
And how that meets, because he knows the strategy of the town, he knows it, and how that meets each and everything, rather than backwards, where, gee, the department send it, then I need to find the cuts. No, the administrator sends out, says, look, we want to live within our 2%,
That is the select board's prerogative,
all right?
to say we're going to live within 2%, we're not gonna have any ads to staff, etc.
Fine.
That's the select board's general budget message.
And that,
Then, it's sort of like Congress. Congress passes a tax law, and then the IRS tries to figure out how to put it into a form.
Can I ask a clarification question? So, what I'm thinking is the select board's memo, get your budgets in by August 20th,
The town
whatever.
As the
administrator.
town administrator.
Town administrator, sorry. Get your budgets in, and then the town administrator is going back and forth with the different departments, massaging what they turned in August.
Not so much massaging, but
Well,
looking at
I
it,
mean,
yeah.
looking and
There's a whole review and
a
analysis.
review and a back and
Yeah,
forth
that's in
and
December and January, absolutely.
Well, why is
before
in
it gets
December
turned
and
in December.
Sorry?
So, and then they put together whatever they're doing that first Friday in December. And that's why there is a time, there is between the August 20th date, whatever it was, and that first Friday in December that the charter says.
Well, again, the charter says the charter says on or before.
But so
So
my
if we
query
can-
is
and-
more about process because the water departments, we're a separate division.
Mhm.
So for those departments that are just departments within town hall, that time period between when they're supposed to get that initial budget in and when the administrator turns in the budget, that's a back and forth between,
Absolutely.
okay. So that time is necessary in the finance world. It's a necessary,
Yes, because that's when.
it's not one and done in August when they
No,
pass
it's
them
not,
in.
because there are places where, again, the fire department puts in that they want 6 new firefighters.
Okay, right.
And that's a conversation that is now gonna happen between the department head and the town administrator to see how can we work this? Is it affordable?
Before
Because-
it goes to the select board.
Yes, I think there's a lot
Okay.
there is a lot of work, because I did this for a living, and
That's
we
what I'm asking
collected
you.
all the budgets, we saw what they added up, and we said, oh my God, we can't put, how are we gonna do this, because we can't put the cost of the product up 30%, because nobody's gonna buy the product, whatever it was. So, yeah, there's a whole process, there's a whole analysis process that is behind the scenes, all this conversation going back and forth, how do you do it? And trying to estimate, what do you think is gonna happen with the pension expense? How much do you think it's gonna go up? So they're in conversation with the county, trying to get a handle on how big the percentage is gonna be. They're trying to get a handle on, because
Because it's a
the school-
living, moving.
it's a moving
Yes.
target. And I know the school department will put in a preliminary presentation, the Monomoy Regional District will put in a preliminary presentation, usually in latter part of November. So they're already, this is what we're thinking, and all of that goes into the mix.
Here's a thought. Since we are on the cusp of having an acting town administrator who has been town administrator or town manager in 2 other towns and is likely to be deeply proficient in budget. We've had a lot of good conversation, a lot of good thoughts here, and maybe we need to try to compile them in some way, and as soon as we have access to our acting town administrator, get him in here.
I think we should. I think that's a great idea, get the town administrator in here, the acting town administrator. We could get Megan in here, because she was very active in the budget this past year. She's gonna have some ideas. So yes, bring them in to have that conversation. Is it feasible, and the question is it feasible to move a early February budget presentation to select board and of course finance committee? Is it feasible to move it back 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Who has born as a town?
Say that again?
Who has born?
Me,
You have born?
Yeah,
You
what's,
need to tell us what born does.
I will.
He said
Okay, he's going to. He didn't do his homework this week,
Yep.
so next week he'll tell us what born does.
And on that note, can I do a little side thing?
sure.
Since I had Barnstable, and since Barnstable's kind of an anomaly, and since we all decided that we wanted to keep town meeting, could I take one of the towns that somebody's got a few?
Sure,
Because aren't,
pick
okay.
one. Go ahead.
Oh,
John's
got
got,
the-
John's
you've
got
got-
2.
You've got the list, so
Yeah,
just
I've
take
got
one, just email somebody and say, I'll take this one.
okay.
Because the town council is very different, there's no town
Right.
meeting.
Exactly.
But
and
they're
it
going
just-
through the same budget timeline, I would bet.
I have 2.
What town?
I'll start off at $25.
What towns you got? I don't know.
What's the population?
up
Oh, this is
Warren
a
and
budget
Sandwich.
meeting, isn't
Do
it?
you wanna give up one of them?
But
If you
even
want
the,
it.
so even the town
I've
council
talked to the
in
guy in
Warren.
Sandwich.
Yeah.
I'll take board.
Personally, so.
All right, so I'll do Bourne. Well,
So,
unless you wanna do two, I mean,
Okay, you two
He doesn't
settle that
want to. He
outside and
doesn't
let me
want
know
to.
so I
I'll
can
do
fix it, when I
two.
can do that
Yeah.
here.
okay, I'll
So,
do Bourne.
I may have the guy's number in Bourne too, because he did call back and leave a message.
Oh,
So
all right,
Hopefully didn't erase it.
okay,
okay,
thanks.
so, I think we have some general consensus that we'd like to see for having more review time by finance committee, the community, the select board.
Yeah.
That we would want to suggest moving that early February back some number of weeks.
Yeah,
Because crushing too much the internal review process is gonna be problematic. Be like moving it back to late December. It's gonna crush the administration's ability to actually do a review.
oh, if we move that December.
Too much, yeah, move
Okay.
it back too much.
That makes sense. It's just from an outside looking in, I always had this impression that in late January, early February, that the administrator just got the budgets, and that's why,
Well, I'm sure they wanna make sure that you know how hard they're working. But seriously, that,
yeah,
from an accountant's perspective, there does need to be that kind of
back and forth, sure.
back and forth before you're ready to tell your bosses,
Right,
this is what it's looking like, rather than, well, it looks like 76 million, well, it could be 74, it could be 72, could be 90. You start doing that and you cause a lot of confusion.
And simultaneously sharing it between
Absolutely,
select board and FinCom.
yep, absolutely, that's in here. Budget to early, you know, it's gotta be to both, info to both select board and finance committee.
Even if it's preliminary, and stamp draft on it, we work like that, that's how I used to do it.
oh, you mean from the December submission? When you say,
No,
No.
whenever the select board gets the financial
Gotcha.
information,
Okay.
the finance, it's the same. And it's gonna be in draft form, it's not gonna be the final budget. It's stamped draft on it.
Right, they're usually dated.
And
So
they,
that you can see that, you know, because my spouse is on the finance committee at this point. And
Yeah.
yes, he gets it, and it's got a date on it, and the one that was dated 3 days ago was 72,452,000. And now 3 days later, there's been some changes, so now it changed by 100,000 up or down.
right,
The iterations happen until there's actually, because these iterations are happening. It's a living document, it's not a, well, we put those numbers on the paper, we're done.
right,
Because then, you're waiting for other information, you know, you may not get the answer to, you may have put in 12% increase for the pension, the benefit of the pension, and you're hoping that it won't be more than 12%. But if it's 10%, it's like, great, because the schools always come in hogging money. They come in, and they've been doing 6% increases for the past several years. And it's a lot, and the community after a while can't afford it. So you end up with that, how do we fund this and get a decent community result?
it's a strategy too.
There's
Come in-
strategies.
Come in high and, excuse me,
You give yourself a little wiggle room, is there other
Yeah.
things?
So it's easier to come down.
exactly.
So I think that's probably the two things in the timeline. Finance committee and select board get it at the same time. And do you wanna move it back some number of weeks? And I think your suggestion of having the ATA and the assistant TA come in and actually,
I suggested the ATA.
right, acting town administrator.
Right.
And I think the assistant town administrator, because she's
Your
gonna have,
suggestion.
but she's gonna have more detail than he's gonna
Than
have
he's gonna have.
experience here. She's got
Right.
experience here, he's got experience in a different town, so it helps.
Or have them
A
both?
number of years ago.
and it was a number of years ago.
Right,
Yeah.
he's been
And let
retired
me
for a while.
compliment, this year's budget is a real town administrator too. And that takes 12 weeks to hire someone to do that job.
This TA, yeah, we're not gonna have a TA until the
12
fall.
weeks.
Well,
Oh.
you get
In
3
your
months.
dreams.
6 months.
Yeah,
In
well,
your
pick a number
dreams.
then.
It'll be 8 months to a year.
Yeah, to find a real one?
Yeah.
Well, we should have a real one, he's just acting real.
No, but I mean, you know, but I think we'll find one, if they bump up the pay to
Yeah, it
$250,000,
will be a good one, though.
I think you'll find someone
Well, maybe.
personally. You know, it's just-
It needs to be the
I-
right
I-
someone. Our track record hasn't been great at it.
But
Anyway, so we got that thrown into the mix also at the point.
Right, which is going to complicate.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he's as the acting town administrator, he's gonna show up here, he's gotta
Or
figure
she.
out, or she, well, right, it is Tony,
No.
Tony Shabby, but he's gonna be the acting town
Yeah, yeah,
administrator. Has to make
Decision.
the commission, talking to the various department heads, forming relationships with them. So even though he may have formed relationships in some other community, he's now here, these are different people. So there's that, we do things differently. I don't mean they're better or worse, but we may be doing things differently than is accustomed. There's,
I'm thinking specifically of timelines in
Yep.
the lead up to town meeting, because I don't think the process varies much from town to
I
town
don't think it
on
does
those
either.
issues.
No.
So I think he'd be well able to talk about that. The assistant certainly could talk about problems encountered with the timelines as they currently exist.
Yes.
And that's another discussion too. It's kind of two halves of the whole at this point.
And I think that that's a great suggestion, to have, this is the kind of stuff, because the question is, what would be the what do you envision being an issue of moving it back 3 weeks or whatever?
and the accessibility is critical. That's,
Well,
Once
that's-
upon a time, they were moved back and there was no issue.
No, there isn't, because accountants overall,
they
I
work more
was,
than 8 hours?
I was in an organization that when we went public, that changed the timelines for getting stuff done dramatically. You had to get this done within 90 days of this, you had to get this done within 30 days of this. It didn't matter how many holidays were anywhere. You had deadlines to meet to the SEC, to this, the reporting. They don't care if there's holidays or not. So accountants are used to, whatever the timeline is, you figure out how to get it done.
Unless, of course, you can file for an extension.
Yep, SEC frowns on extensions. You're gonna get a frowny face on that one.
So does the stock market.
So does the stock market. So, no, you don't putz around with
Don't
those.
distract her, she almost called on me.
Maureen, you have another comment?
Yes. So I know you're gonna be meeting with the finance committee and going through that whole section, but it is on your agenda. And just from the public, I just wanna say one thing from your public. I think one of the biggest wastes of time that we have in our that is done because of a dictate in our charter is the public hearing required by the finance committee, the way it is required right now. In the charter where it says it's like the third week in March or whatever,
Yeah.
it's just wrong. I don't know what's right, I'm not gonna make any suggestions, but the public hasn't been to it in umpteen years. It's too late, it's like it's too late by then, it's right before April 1st. And just I hope that when you look at that, because it's a total waste of effort right now, so I hope that can be improved on.
No, I think you're right, because, and part of what drives that being there is they don't get the information. If you think about
Yeah.
it, they're getting the information the
Yeah.
latter part of February, and 3 weeks later, they have to have a public hearing.
But the only thing I'll say about that is that then becomes how you conceive of what you're communicating to the public. Because the public doesn't necessarily want to know every little nitwit about, 25 cents on a payroll budget. They want to know the big stuff. So I think it's partly they don't have the information, but I think part is what are they trying to communicate to the public? What's the purpose of that time? Because right now it's nothing.
Should the public hearing be more in shouldn't move into early April, when you actually have a budget that has gone to the printers for the warrant. Now
Yeah.
you've got something to actually present.
That would be more like your pre-town meeting.
That would be your pre-town meeting.
Or should it go back more, like, say, the week after the town administrator presents it to the select board and finance committee? They don't understand every number, but 80% is payroll, so it's more conceptual about, do we buy a fire truck or do we buy a building? I mean, I'm
And
not
that's free-
suggesting
that's
either
the
one.
use of free cash.
I'm just saying,
Does it even require a public hearing?
I know, maybe
That's
you
an
don't, maybe you
interesting
take
question.
that out of the charter,
Do you
you know.
even need that?
right? I don't,
That's an
Yeah.
interesting concept. Do you even need it?
Sort of like our 45-day hearing here, to what end?
exactly,
Right.
Well,
We did it.
Maureen came.
I
Maureen
you
came.
had to have public.
But yeah,
And Bob.
Bob
That's
came,
right.
so we had two publics, we
That's
actually had
right.
three.
I'll try and
and
get
two
my
was
wife
dri-
next time.
He was driving.
So we actually had four, yeah, but we got no suggestions,
Is
because
there
it was,
big-
it
there
was
was-
really kind of, I mean, it's
Now
a,
she criticized.
I'll get my kids to come next time.
It was our biggest crowd ever.
yeah. All right, have we beaten this to death?
Yes.
I think about, some things about, because that was the budget timeline thing. The finance committee itself,
Question whether it needs term limits.
yes, it is the only committee that has term limits.
Excuse me?
Yes.
I believe that comes from the state, but I didn't have
No,
a
it
chance.
does
That was
not.
us.
Right.
Promise, I was there.
It does not.
I was at the scene of the crime when it happened.
But it's not the only committee, voter information and culture,
At time?
I believe so.
That is from the state.
Well, nevertheless,
Well, we,
Just
But I don't
saying.
think voter information has term limits.
I think it does.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
It's-
I know cultural commission does, because that, they run by state hoo-ha.
Oh, I'm sorry, I remember what it was. When you were on finance, you could only be on like 2 other committees, and one of them was voter information.
Can't be
You
on
That's-
can't
any
be on
other
any other
committee.
committee except capital outlay.
Okay.
So,
The question is, voter information, is that even a charter committee?
it is not.
No, 'cause
That's
it's a
selectmen
state.
sort of an
Yeah.
ad hoc. It's not a state, it's the local.
It's
It is
local.
local?
Yeah,
There was a, I have
I
it
think,
here.
I think it's a selectman's choice. It may be in the bylaws, but
I have from, Emily Mitchell had put together a very nice report on, she did this 2 years ago, how many committees we had, how many were regulatory, how many were required by state law, how many were required by the charter. And I will see if I can get, she had a very nice chart done, what's regulatory, what is required by state law. Like, we have to have a housing authority, that's run by state law. The board of registrars, the assessors, so what is required by state law? So let me get this copied and get, I'll see if, I'll get it copied on a big paper, because it's a lot of information, no, it's too small. So I'll get that.
The DOR also has a lot of information on budget timelines.
So I'll get that to everyone. But yeah, finance committee, should it have term limits? Don't know. Should anybody else have term limits? Should we have term limits? Should the elected people have term limits? Should appointed people have term limits? And I have had, I know one of our members, said, why are you so, pushing term limits? I'm not pushing term limits on anybody. But I have had enough people in town say to me, why don't we have term limits? Okay, it's a topic.
I
I
adore
would ask-
Frank Crowley. He was on Recreation and Youth for 40 years. That's a long time.
It's a long time.
I think the question in return, though, for anybody who wants to ask that question is, if we term limit somebody out, are you willing to step up and take
Right.
the job?
Well, that's a whole different issue. But then
No,
do
it's the
people,
same issue,
Yeah.
because if you're complaining that people are there too long, and there aren't people standing in line waiting for that job, then you have a problem.
But how do we know that?
But it's a catch-22, right,
Mm.
Tony?
How do
Because
we
if
know
somebody-
that there's somebody not waiting to get on a committee?
And why should I
and-
even bother?
Right,
why should I
if-
bother? 'Cause
why
they're not
should they
gonna pick
bother?
me.
Because they're not
They're
gonna get
either
put on
not
the
gonna
committee.
pick, or they're gonna let this person continually get reappointed.
Right.
Right.
Well, I
You know,
think
it
our,
goes two ways.
I think our citizens' activity forms, and I mentioned this to Don Howell recently, I think are a bit off-putting in the fact that they're saying that you need, you know, it isn't clear that you only need a resume for some things. It looks like you need a resume. They want to know your educational history. Well,
What
does
does
that
that
mean if
matter?
I'm only a high school graduate, I'm not qualified to serve
Right.
on a committee in this town? So I think that in a way, it makes people feel like they're not qualified. And I think we need a warmer, friendlier way to approach our citizens' activity form and outreach, but that's a different discussion
Right.
for a different day.
That's not a charter thing. But I hear you. Go ahead.
So in terms of the finance committee, they're dealing with advisory to the budget,
For
right?
the town meeting.
Advisory to the town meeting.
Right. They have no policy, so therefore, they could serve forever as far as I would be concerned. That's not
Well,
something
we're
that.
not having the discussion today.
Oh,
We're
I'm
asking-
sorry, I thought we were.
Oh, I'm sorry, we are. I thought
We are.
On to the next, never
Are
mind.
you saying I was right?
Yes, she is.
Please write that down.
Right, it's on tape.
I am happy to admit when I have made an error, I'm sorry.
This is on tape.
So that's a committee that really, you're dealing with numbers. You're not interpreting, you're not, so why do we have a 6-year term?
Okay,
Nine.
Nine?
can I address that?
Sure.
There was a time in our history when the finance committee had all the power. And the effort at that time was to dilute that. That it had been held tightly in the hands of a few people who had and they always had the motion, whether positive or negative. They always presented the budget. And so with the original charter, we put the budget presentation to the selectmen. We said that the finance committee has the first motion only when it's a positive motion or in the absence of a positive motion, because they would get up and present, you know, right out of the box, negative motions. And they had so much influence and so much power that if you didn't have the finance committee on your side, you were cooked. So I think that was successful. And the term limit, I mean, 9 years is a pretty long term limit. If you were successful in at least maybe getting some turnover, that helped too, and it did. Maybe that time is past, but there was a very particular goal and reason at the time why that was done.
I can understand.
But there are also committees that people are on them for years and years and years. So is that healthy for the committee?
We're talking budget, so in terms of the budget, finance committee, that's separate from other,
And there are some
Why?
committees, I know we're
Why?
talking the finance committee.
well, if I look at the Board of Selectmen, I might want to really
Select
have,
board.
think of term limits. If I look at
Thank you.
historic, I might want to
Select board.
have term limits.
Historic has term limits.
Yeah, oh, good.
Because it's,
Commissioner, the district, since they're combined.
well, they're combined, so
Yeah.
they do have
Right.
term limits, but that's run through the state.
I feel like at some point we should generate a list of questions to throw out to the community via whatever means necessary, the various social media pages that have to do with Harwich. Would you be, you know, how do you feel about term limits? More elected positions, you know, just a half a dozen things that really more directly affect the voters.
Could I-
Their
see,
pulse.
could I,
What do they
Yeah.
think?
Yeah.
could I only suggest, because I have an active group of people in my neighborhood who are interested in the town, but they don't follow every little, tick. And if you were to say to them in general, are you for term limits, they'd say yes. But I feel if you ask that question, it would behoove you to tell them, gee, we've only had 15 applications in the past year, by the way, so
Yeah,
when you're,
35
you know,
vacancies,
some
right.
kind of, you know, some kind of background, not necessarily that, but something, so that they don't just hear it as a
Meaningful.
flat, term limits.
Well, and I think that when we get to the committees in the charter, that'll be a discussion of, are there changes that we should be suggesting there? But on the finance committee, I don't know, should they have term limits or not? Should they be elected or not?
That's another question.
And that's a whole different question.
Should they be 7 or 9 or whatever?
In my experience on the finance committee, I don't even remember having 9 members all at one time either.
Well, we have currently, as of Monday night last, 35 vacancies on our town boards and committees. We need to
And I
work
think
on
there's
getting
2
those
vacancies
filled
on the
before we
finance
start talking
committee
about
now.
term
They've
limits.
got, they do have 2 that should be
Good way to look at
showing
it.
up.
Okay, but the point is, I barely had 9 already but I do believe in term limits. I would think 3 years. 9 years is a good chunk of time.
Can't believe it.
I mean, I don't see why you
I
would.
mean, I don't think it's hurt them particularly.
No,
And you can only, you know, you can take a year off and go back on too.
Right.
So
And
sometimes
there's
That's a
it's,
good check and balance.
Because there's also, there are certain committees that are more complicated than others,
oh, sure,
meaning
right.
more rules and regulations. You know, you get the
Zoning board of
Planning.
appeals.
zoning board of appeals. I don't think you'd want somebody
Yeah.
out there just for 2 years.
Degree of impact on the,
You know, planning board,
Community.
there's a whole lot more,
There's a learning curve.
there's a much more learning curve than on some others.
Yeah.
And in finance, you have to, a municipal accounting
Well, that's
is
the
very
learning curve.
different. That's the learning curve, because
Corporate
it's,
and
Right.
municipal,
the
two
first 2 or
different
3
animals.
years, you're sitting there
Yeah.
learning if you haven't had any experience with it.
Yeah.
I think more to the point, on some of these more complicated committees, we might want to talk about requiring the chair to revolve. I think that is actually more of an
Mm.
issue
Yeah,
yes.
than,
I think you're right, Sam. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, somebody should not be sitting in the chair of the Board of Appeals for 5 years.
Right.
Shouldn't be happening.
And do all the chairs act the same way?
No, and
No,
all
no.
the problem is that when somebody sits in the chair for a long period of time, the whole board becomes that person. I mean, it just is. And
Look what
there's,
happens when Linda's not here.
Right. She's gonna be like a tyrant. You think I'm bad.
No,
But in all seriousness,
no, I agree with that.
if somebody is chair for many,
Yeah.
many years, it lets the rest of the committee off the hook for stepping up to a leadership role.
right, that's the other.
That's the other side of it, isn't you have that person then becomes chair because nobody else wants it. Well, if you have a 2-year limit, just throwing that out, on being chair 2 consecutive years, then that means somebody's got to step up.
Lee Calder never let anybody be chair.
Right,
Yeah,
He
right.
was always the king.
yep.
on
And that
finance.
was a problem.
No, that was recreation and youth.
Yeah.
And that was a problem.
I know.
And I think, Sandy, I think you're absolutely spot on about the citizens volunteer form. I know when I, years ago, applied, they had an opening on the golf committee. I was like, you know,
do
so I
that.
applied and it was, they did ask me if I played golf, which I thought was really odd because it's not about playing golf, right?
About
It's
running.
about
It's
running an
about running a
operation.
business, an
Yeah.
operation,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
So,
what do they ask you on the water commissioners? Do you drink water? Yeah, good, you're good to go. But yeah,
Do you flush?
there
can
are
you
some.
flush, yeah,
And
yeah.
quite honestly, the school committee is no different. Oh, you don't have children? Well, what could you possibly know about education?
Well, it requires nothing to run for select person.
Yep,
How about charter commission?
didn't tell
Well,
you.
that's-
that.
Hey, I
can vouch for that.
encouraged you, I encouraged you.
We had 18 run for it the first time around, and we only got enough to fill the board. However, it's a good board.
Yeah.
Nine is enough.
Yes.
Anything more than that, night.
Well, we had, a lot more choices way back when.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, too, it was very new, and the whole concept of a charter was hugely controversial.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a fight. That was a huge fight. I mean, Hatfields and McCoys.
All right, do we have anything, Finance Committee, right now, their focus is budget. Do we wanna have something in the charter that says, they review the budget, make opinions? Do they want to give them the authority to go out and look at other stuff? Because,
Go out and look at other stuff?
sure,
Yeah.
like, the 204 building, they're trying to figure out some of the expenses of the 204 building, what does it work? They were looking at things like, all of our little rat hole of money things that we have. What are those things?
Oh,
Okay.
all finances, sure.
Well,
So,
Well, they were told when they started to examine the 204 that they were out of their lane.
Oh,
yes, they were
well,
told they were out of their
that-
lane.
That 204 is very near and dear to my heart.
I
Yeah,
know.
and as someone who served on that first committee, it would have been very, and I know Richard's not here, I'll probably bite my head off, but it would have been wonderful if there were more financial folks, because I offered to put together a business plan with financials, but that was like poo-pooed.
Right, and keep in mind that town meeting, this is a different topic, but town meeting passed the article that said that the town wanted to have a full review of the 204 building and its expenses.
Right.
That has not happened.
Article 57.
Article 57.
I get t-shirts
That's why-
made.
Oh, yeah, it's like a T-shirt. But
2022.
Don't
And then-
get him started.
and,
Oh, no,
yeah, we won't get them started on that one. But that has never happened.
No.
And we have,
it still hasn't happened?
No.
But do we wanna
Never,
put
ever.
extra responsibilities on the finance committee without,
they're looking for stuff
asking-
to do.
oh, well, okay,
Because
Well,
otherwise you do the budget and then you're sitting around waiting for the budget to show up again.
okay.
Not so much extra responsibilities, but
No.
extra
Extra eyes.
ability to
Permissions
run down some
to,
of those rabbit holes.
Yeah.
The rabbit hole issue.
On,
Yes,
on that,
Maureen, yes.
you're asking, should they have forbearance to go out and look at other things? From the other point of view, should some things be added to the charter, which would be requirements of their committee, such as, just examples, should they in fact give a statement on debt every year?
Yeah.
Should they in fact, let's say there's a capital project over $10 million, since numbers are so big nowadays, should they in fact back up their votes by a tax impact statement or something of that nature, rather than just vote, without any other numbers and just say, that's my vote.
Well, that's the whole thing of the warrant. What should be included in the warrant, which we had earlier discussion, but there should be debt stuff in there.
Right, that, but I'm talking about the finance committee now in the charter, and I'm talking about maybe they should have some more definition about what they're supposed to accomplish, and I'm just saying that,
No, I think that's.
I was a bit disappointed last year when votes were made on very large dollar amounts, when the committee did not in fact have any backup of what the tax impact or the overall debt impact was gonna be, and they said that, we have nothing, we think it's a good idea, so,
Good idea if you can afford it.
but nobody knew.
It's always a good idea if you can afford it. I was just looking for something. But you're right, I mean, do we wanna put something in the charter that gives them purview to look at other things?
Yeah.
Because you're right, they were told, get back in your lane. So do we wanna broaden, in the charter, broaden their lane and say, yeah, you can go look at stuff?
but there should be some parameters.
Yeah,
And I say that just because I was a tenant years ago, and John did come and talk to me, and
Talk to everybody.
I know, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
And I understand why you were doing it, but it was a lot. And,
A lot.
so, meaning that it was not always comfortable. Cause
Yeah, he's scary.
he is.
Yeah.
He is. No, I mean, we agreed on, no, but I mean in the sense of, and that was probably also because administration was saying, don't talk.
Right.
Do you know, and it was like, well, here's somebody that's actually looking at numbers, which is smart, so I think it, in other words, so that there's no problem in the future between administration and the finance board, that it's spelled out nice and neat. Cause yeah, I think they should be looking at, I don't know what would be a good term, capital projects or,
It's financial advice to the town, you know, you take them,
They
A
should be
building.
our
but there
financial
are
watchdogs.
personalities, if
Yeah.
they landed on that committee, would take that and run with it, and they'd be
But that's gonna
annoying
hap-
people here, there, and everywhere.
That's gonna happen in any committee. You've
Okay.
got, you've got.
I'm just
I said it-
saying, don't make it too loosey-goosey.
I won't, yeah, I don't, I think there's some kind of parameters, how would you word it? I mean, all of this is,
Yeah.
how do you word this? But it's the concept of, do you wanna give them the authorization to look at other things?
Like the finance committee shall have full access to the financial records of any given entity in town. That's what you want. You wanna be able to see those numbers. You don't wanna walk in the building and tell them
Yeah,
how to run the.
That's a
No,
good,
no,
that's a
no,
good
yeah.
way to
But
articulate
there
it.
should be
Yes,
access.
what's it gonna
Dollars
cost?
and cents.
How does it
Yes.
affect the tax?
I can deal with that.
yeah,
Cause it took forever to get any level of information on what the 204 building costs.
Still don't have,
Still don't have.
still don't have.
We had a good crack at it from Carol.
Oh, yeah, and
That was a
it
good
is
crack
being
at it.
run well, it's being attended, I mean, there's no
But to
fault
try to
there.
get information as to whether or not, what does
How
that
much is
building,
the town subsidizing?
what is the town subsidizing it? That is a very difficult number to get.
it's not, I actually have a wonderful spreadsheet on
Yeah.
innovation buildings, and I can give it to you, and you can, there's just, you just plug the stuff in, and,
But you gotta get the numbers to
Yeah.
plug them in.
yeah.
And you can't have somebody barring the door and then telling the town employee, who, by the way, doesn't answer to that person, that they can't speak to anybody about these things.
Absolutely.
And that's just what's been going on, is that the
So the access.
staff
to
has been
info.
told they can't even talk
I
to the
can't believe
public.
it's still going
So
on.
getting away
Well, I
from the
don't know
two
that it
of
is,
them.
but
Right,
Yeah,
I
Things
suspect.
like
yeah.
solar at our dump. What's expected revenue? Is it declining or is it increasing? How long are those panels going to last, and will we have to replace them, or the cost of
Solar.
replacement?
I didn't understand what word you said, I just understood that you said solar.
Do they have the authority?
I
usually
didn't
last-
understand what you
Oh,
said,
alright.
that's what I,
Okay, so
Those will last
that
for a
kind
year,
of,
but they decrease
I
by
know
a
they
certain
decrease.
percentage every year.
and
but I think that that's a, should they have the ability to go after or to investigate other things? Ask that question.
Right.
I think it's
Yeah.
not well known in the town at all that there's a whole bunch of debt that has not appeared on our little real estate tax bills.
yeah,
And when that hits, there's gonna be a, wow,
You
huh?
That's already
A
happening
hue
with
and
the
a
sewer
cry.
stuff.
Yeah,
no,
but-
that hasn't hit.
No,
it
no, there's a
hasn't.
ton
See,
that's not,
You've
there's
never
a,
seen that on your tax.
Yeah.
very
Oh,
little.
it's gonna be nasty. And that's one of the things I really love about the way the budget is spread out for us commissioners, the water wastewater commissioners, is that we have these 10-year projections, but we also have not only a 10-year projection of what we're gonna need to spend on, but, what the whole budget's gonna look like in 10 years.
Look, you guys are actually doing the P word.
What's that?
Planning.
But why,
Planning.
so
The B
why isn't that done?
Again,
Is
It's
it,
a
is it not a
department head.
normal thing for towns to do that?
I think it should be normal. I think there are towns that do it to a better or lesser degree. It's all gonna depend on the staffing and whether or not there's, quite frankly, an appetite for that kind of information.
Seems to me somewhere along the line, there have been periodic 5-year
The 5
Sure
years.
has been.
projections,
Yeah.
but I don't really think
The last I saw was Dave
landed in any
Ryan.
significant way as far as
They were
having any
great.
traction.
Oh, they were great. The last one I saw was Dave Ryan and Jim
Miriam,
Merriam.
and that goes back a
I
good
thought there
age.
was
That's
something
right.
more recent than that purported to be that.
They weren't really in depth.
That's what I figured.
The Dave Ryan one, I mean, you could click one button and there'd be 100,000 pieces of information that would fall out of that. I mean, I was astounded. I went to both of them personally and, thanked them. I was blown away by what they did in those days.
Oh,
But we haven't had anything like that in a long time.
yeah.
And even though I love Judith building on herself, part of the reason that we do that to such an extreme is we have to for the water rates. We absolutely have to do a 10-year look ahead. Whereas the town,
That's no different than town taxes.
no, I know,
No,
but
it's
they,
not.
I mean, it's a
absolutely not.
revenue stream,
It's the
right?
same thing,
Yeah.
it's that.
No, it is.
Any
Right.
business
Yeah,
is, a business that is really looking
Projections.
at their finance, they're looking at projections. At what point do you have to start, you can only, as you start adding more and more people, at what point should you start automating functions
Yeah.
and all of that? That's the whole, again, that P word, the planning.
But doesn't that go back to the administrator's statement in terms of when the whole budget process starts?
It's the select
That's-
board who drives
Well,
that.
okay, then this, but I look at the select board as 5 individuals, one of them having a lot of financial background in banking, but
That's today.
But that's today. But there isn't the financial information, maybe there isn't even the ability to ask those questions. Should that be part of our charter that has?
Should it be part of the responsibilities of the town administrator? Would we think
Yes, it should.
and I
That should
think
be in the budget message.
when Carol, is it Carol?
Carol Capone.
Carol Coppola.
So I remember we had these conversations in the water wastewater department when she would come up once a year and do presentations. And I remember asking her, why isn't this done? Because again, it was these long-term projections next door to the next year or two,
Mhm.
year 3, so that you really had a good understanding. We're gonna have to invest in X, Y, and Z infrastructure, because it's gonna wear out.
Sure.
And she just smiled when I asked,
Right,
why
she wasn't
isn't
gonna
this
answer that
done?
question.
Yeah,
She wasn't gonna
I
answer
said,
that
could
question.
it be done? And she said, of course it could be, yeah,
But
so,
there, again, there has to be the
Yeah.
appetite. And the select board should be leaning on the town administrator and the financial people to get information and issues to them so they can deal with them.
and is that inappropriate to put in here a 5 and 10-year projection to be done every year, every 3 years,
I
or?
don't know.
I would say it would not be inappropriate to put it in
And-
there, under the duties of the town administrator.
Maybe that goes back to where,
With the help of the finance
Or the duties of the
committee.
finance committee.
In cooperation
Actually,
with,
be-
in
They don't have
collaboration
information.
with,
but here before, town administrator, charter reference 921. Town administrator provides current financial assessment to the select board. Maybe that's the place with a 5-year financial projections.
Projection, yeah.
Maybe that's the place where that goes.
And
That
there
the
are
current
assumptions,
financial-
detailed
Including that.
5-year financial
Yeah.
projections.
Projections are hard to do.
Yep.
Projections are hard to do, but
They're
they're
worthwhile.
okay, because they are assumptions. And it also gives the select board things to think about longer term rather than just the big pile that they get every week. So it's not like a little rat race?
Or maybe
that
different
there's-
uses of free cash.
But
So-
that's not, and I struggle with that one because free cash is a defined term, it's a dumb term. It's like, somebody, opened up a barrel and said,
Yeah,
oh, look, there's
they
money
need
in
they
there.
need another word
Not
for
free.
that.
But
not
that's
cash.
but that is it's not free and it's not enough. It's a municipal finance term.
Does it just mean that money needs to be spent by the end
It
of the
just
year?
means that it's available, that
Wasn't-
after it's basically
Wasn't
saying,
anticipated.
you had an actual versus budget result, and you ended up with more money than you thought you would, so it is available to spend on other
I
things.
think it might be called a surplus.
And it can't get
surplus.
carried?
It's, the budgeting
Sure,
tool.
you don't
Yes.
have to
Yeah.
spend
Should be
anything
surplus.
of free cash.
Yeah.
We
Not
spend-
negative.
Surplus is exactly what they should call it,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, we could have spent but didn't.
Yeah,
So I have a question, Linda, when you say detailed 5-year plan. Detailed, does that mean the police department's thinking in 5 years they're gonna put personnel projections?
Yes and no.
Well,
How
that's
much
why
is
I'm just
how
questioning
much
that
is-
word
How
detailed
much
for
it's going to
a,
cost to have a payroll in 5 years?
well, but are we asking them to project
Well, I think,
with the word detailed, that's all.
having done projections in my life,
yeah.
that you start with some parameters. You start out with some parameters. You say, we're going to assume, I come from the retail industry, and I spent a lot of time in retail. So when we started out with projections, part of it was the expectation that the existing stores, their store sales were gonna go up 2%. We were going to add 50 stores next year, and here's how they're gonna rack out by quarter. So you start with some parameters. There's an assumption that payroll costs are gonna go up 3%.
But you're adding 50 stores, so you're adding
But that-
5,000 employees.
Right, you're adding employees, but you're saying the employees you have, payroll costs are gonna go up 3%, and then you layer in the 50 new stores and their payroll costs. So you really start with some parameters and some percentage increases. We think that this is gonna go, we think utilities, we happen to be manufacturing and stuff, we think utilities are going to be fairly flat, or we think utilities are gonna go up 10%. You start with those, and then you just start, now it's a mechanical spreadsheet function, and you see where you end up, and you say, oh my God. Because then you start driving, how much can you put the product up? You can only sell a loaf of bread for so much money.
Right.
So you start running into where does it hit? And from the initial creation of that spreadsheet and the little numbers that rack themselves out, you start looking at where are the problem areas, and then you start talking policy. Should we start automating so we can reduce headcount? Should we do this? Should we do that? And so it kind of, the projection itself is mechanical, and then you start with the analysis side.
Linda, I'm gonna simplify, because it's not the private industry, it's government. So we know in our town here that there's approximately 50 permits for new houses
Yep.
on an annual basis. We know the average price of that house. We know what our tax rate is. We know what the population is. We know whether the population is increasing or decreasing. So making projections for a 5 or 10-year period is not that difficult. You can also look backwards 5 or 10 years and get a trend line, which will help you go into the future. The details are left to that poor finance department
Yeah.
that has to go into all the details. But from a strategic perspective, it's very easy to make those projections.
But that's the setting, the initial,
Right.
this is how we think it's gonna happen. How much, like in
Right.
municipality, taxes can go up 2.5%.
What's the
Plus the new
appraisals? Right.
construction, blah, 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 blah. There's all kinds of stuff
There's
that,
levers you could,
yeah, there's stuff to poke at.
Like with the schools, because Monomoy is such a popular school, you know, because it's free choice, what's it
School
called?
choice.
School choice, right? Or maybe it's not,
It's not like it
but they
used to
can
be.
project that, you know, the census of students is going to
Mm.
go down 3% a year, let's say, or it's going to go up 5% a year. Will they need more teachers? When is the life of building A going to need, you know, significant rehab? All these kind of things. So they're not, nobody's, you don't have to stick to those numbers,
No,
they're
I
just,
understand, I just, the
It's just a
word
planning tool.
detail is all I was,
Yeah, you can't,
Yeah.
it's really hard on projections to then start doing a full-blown budget. I'm gonna
Mm.
have 22 people, your payroll is $5 million. If you don't add any new stores, you don't add any schools, you don't add any of this, it's gonna go up 3%, whatever the union
Right.
contracts are.
Or
So-
the cost of insurance.
Cost of insurance, all of that stuff,
But it's helpful
it's
for
very
the
helpful
big
to-
budget things that are coming soon down the pike, or, for the townspeople to understand that 3 years from now, this big nut is gonna hit and the taxes will increase by maybe, I don't know, 15 or 20% or whatever that number is.
And yet, and then it starts driving conversations of, are there other places for revenue? Which, you know, should we charge $10, fee to do something as opposed to $2? What will the community be able to absorb? So you start getting
Yeah.
into some of that too.
Yeah,
I mean, projections are actually an art
They're
form.
helpful.
yeah.
Yes,
I mean, the last 5 minutes have been way off charter, but since we are, the last projections I saw from Carol Coppola, for several years, she had been predicting that we'd need overrides in 25, 26, 27. And all of a sudden, we just don't have figures anymore. But again, this is not charter business, but we shouldn't be shocked by the fact if we hit an override very quickly. Once that 100 million in debt hits us, there's no question about
Oh,
it.
but
but
this
the
does,
debt actually is an addition to.
That's right, that's right.
That's
It'll be a
not part of.
personal override.
but
Yeah,
what this
it's a
does,
personal loan.
it helps the community in terms of its own plan. It helps the individual that says, I might have to move away in the next 4 years or 5 years, and I have to start planning for that. We don't wanna hit the brick wall and say, oh my taxes have just gone up 20%, but my appraisal's gone up 30%.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into all this, and so
Yep.
it is personal finance as well. I mean, we do projections out for retirement, are we gonna have enough money, or am I gonna be eating cat food? So we do all our projections out
We've got a
until
good
we're,
source for that if you need.
thank you. I use Chewy.
Oh, I need smalls.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Ooh. My cats are gonna move to your house.
My cat stopped chewing her fur off.
I'm good. But we do our projections out, can we live to 95? We probably won't. I'm sure a lot of people are gonna applaud that. But we do that, and there was a point several years ago when I watched the wastewater and what this was gonna cost, and thinking about it was gonna do to my real estate tax bill. And we used to just have in there that the real estate tax bill overall would go up like 4%. I changed that to 10%. I had a 10% factor in there in the real estate tax bill going out these 30 years.
What age did you have to kick off?
Well, but you ran out of money.
Yeah, when did I run out of money?
When did you run out of money?
But we just
At the 80s.
increased the factor from
Yeah.
what had been running, 3% a year. But I started looking at, when this stuff hits, it's gonna be a 10% increase.
But it
That's a
all,
lot of
If you
money.
ended it like 82, you'd spend a lot less.
Yeah. This is
And it
like,
also
okay,
brings-
this is when I have to kill myself.
That's how my kids.
This-
There you go.
Yeah.
and this discussion brings it back to the town. Why are town people not interested in the budget? Because it's not pertinent to their own needs. It needs to be pertinent. They need the plan. I wanna keep the house I'm in, same family, 100 and some years.
And you've been there the whole time.
I'm the one.
She just got that one right in. That was smooth.
And not only that, after you even apologized once, you admitted you were wrong.
Always willing to.
I'm
admit.
taking that back.
I'm always willing to own a
You
mistake.
are, you
Always
are.
have been.
You are.
But in all seriousness, yeah, I don't think the general public understands
How it impacts
how
them.
much money has not hit the tax bills.
Yeah.
That we're paying interest on that debt only, we're not paying any principal. All right, it's getting late. How we doing? What do we wanna do for
Four
next
thirty's coming
meeting?
early.
Hmm?
I said 4:30's coming early for me.
4:30?
Yep.
You're going away?
No, that's every morning, so.
She gets up early, so I'm trying to be mindful of that. It's-
I'm just trying to go back to sleep at that
What do we
time.
Sorry,
wanna talk,
Tony.
where do we wanna go next week? Yo, where do we wanna go next week for
Why?
topics?
Oh,
Oh,
topics.
that was a time dinner.
No, not dinner.
Do we wanna get into the elected appointed thing?
Administrator?
How about we have a little, like, I didn't do any work like we're supposed to do, like Sandy did. Now
We
I've
wanna
got
come
my-
back to
Good,
the
I'm not alone.
subject with
No, well,
everybody
I'm
doing
just-
their homework?
yeah, well, we can do a quick rehash of,
This is what
Different
happens to budgets.
Right, so
I
continue
mean, that was
the,
an excellent template to go by, yeah.
Yeah.
could
Summertime
turn
for
on
me
the
is
top,
is
so
pretty busy.
continue
I
the
was emailed
timeline.
that.
guilty this morning because I hadn't done my homework. So instead of getting shop work done today, I sat
I
at my
didn't
computer
even
and
follow
did
up
this.
to find out what the homework was. I'm sorry, I let you all down.
But
You're not alone.
We recognize
A
that,
leadership problem.
yeah. I'm not gonna babysit people.
no, I think
I am not babysitting people, I have to do. So a timeline, continue the timeline conversation with some
Bring
other
it up. I mean,
information.
now that I understand it tremendously now, it shouldn't take long, and
Sure.
see,
What else?
that's an important.
What do you wanna start on?
Anybody want to write some language? that
I'd
they-
love the administrator role. Let's
Wanna talk
start
about
that.
that?
Start in the town administrator role?
Yep,
Okay,
fits right in with the budget.
and
And
that's,
should, and we'll
that's a
bring
s-
in the verbiage from our towns?
you can,
Should
but
read
make
it.
sure you look at what our charter is,
Yeah.
and I think that's section
Uh,
5, I
What
think.
this was a side by side.
Well, I think Sandy's template, you got a template.
You could use it for anything,
Yeah.
actually.
My template?
All
It
right.
isn't exactly complicated.
All right, TA roles.
I can't type.
It is if you always had an administrative assistant.
Oh,
I'm a
Well,
finger
well,
type.
Can't get into personal issues. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn at 8:42?
so
Second,
Okay, Sandy moved, Lou seconded, all in favor, let's
Aye.
vote.
Hi,
Aye.
Somebody wanna turn that machine off?
thank you for coming.
Thank you, dear.
Always a
Thank you for
pleasure.
being here every week. Gonna see you tomorrow morning?
yeah, and thank God he's